Hello guys, today I want to talk about translations and localization in Laravel, and I want to give you a few quick tips, not exactly tips, but explanations how things work under the hood in Laravel from my experience. And this will be a two-part mini-series. In today's video I will talk about static translations, so something that you would save in resources folder, and then there will be another video tomorrow where I will talk about dynamic translations, things in the database, in the models, and stuff like that. So let's start with part one. And let's start with this underscore function, which you can see in, for example, Laravel Breeze in my example. So underscore name would look for translation for that name, and if it doesn't find it, it just shows this text. That's it. So did you know that that underscore can be used either with any text or in one of the classes of Laravel Breeze login request, it can be used as this. So double underscore function will look for both keys and any texts. And keys are located in resources lang en, and there are 4 files coming with Laravel by default. One of them is auth, and here are messages for auth. So for example, if we want to, for example, shorten that, and let's try to log in with some invalid credentials, log in, these credentials do not match. So they come from auth file in resources lang. So my tip here is that underscore will look both for keys and for any texts. And those any texts, by the way, for those of you who don't know, for example, you can create a file resources lang, for example, ES.json for Spanish, and then you need a JSON with name, and value could be Spanish name. Don't remember how it is in Spanish, to be honest. And that doesn't change anything automatically. Name is still a name until you go to config app and change the locale, the default locale, which is in here. If you change that to ES, look what happens. That changes to Spanish name, but nothing else changes because the fallback locale is still English. If we scroll down a bit more, fallback locale is still English, and if we change that to Spanish, for example, these will still work because they use the text in underscore, but those who have keys in it, so for example, let's go to login form again, and let's fill in with wrong credentials. See, we have auth failed because there's no Spanish for auth failed. So just a few random examples, but I hope you understand how underscore function works. And by the way, check out those 4 files that come with Laravel. You can specify a validation message, you can make it different or translate to your language. Then there are passwords, a few messages, and pagination to links for previous and next. There are a few more ways to show or get the translated text, and one of them you may find in Laravel code @lang. It's a blade directive for the same thing as underscore, just a bit shorter. So for example, you can do without label, so underscore name like this, or lang name. These are 2 identical things, just in blade this may be shorter. So if we refresh, see we have name, it's the same thing. Just lang may be shorter in your blade files, and if we take a look at all the files in Laravel project and search for @lang, it is used, for example, in HTML message component in vendor. So just to make things a bit shorter, that's it. Another older way to get the translations, there was a trans helper. It still works in newer Laravel version, but it's not used because it was replaced by double underscore. But if you get that, if you see that in any older Laravel project, it works the same as underscore, but it doesn't take the JSON files. It just looks for the keys in file.key. So I'm not advising to use that in any way, but so that you would be familiar if you see it somewhere. Now let's talk about pluralization. There is a specific Laravel helper similar to trans, which is trans choice. And it can show 1 out of 2 options that you prepare for singular amount and for plural amount. So is it 1 record or many records? And you specify those amount of records by parameter. So for example, in the register you want to specify join 1 user or join many users, and you have different texts for those. So then you use trans choice, provide some amount, so user count in our case, and then in the auth you have 2 translations separated by this separator, and if there is 1 user it will show this text. If it is 2 or more, it will show the right text. Let's try it out. So by default we have 1 user at the moment in the database, so join 1 user, but if we register, I register and then I will log out and go to register page again. We will have join many users. And there are a few more parameters how you can use that trans choice. It's in the official Laravel documentation. Also, you can use that in the JSON files like this. And also there are some more parameters with specific numbers and rules, so you can experiment with it. Next, let's talk about parameters, and I will show you one trick how to uppercase or lowercase the parameter values. So if you are using translation keys like this, you can specify a parameter. So for example, if you want to greet our user on the dashboard, for example, hi, and then provide their name, you can provide the name as a parameter here, and then in the blade, you can call it like this. So the string, and then all the parameters in array, so parameter name, key, and parameter value. And it shows Alec Robinson, for example. But interesting thing is, if you provide name like this, it automatically capitalizes that. Even if we change the actual name to lowercase, let's try it out actually. Register, fake filler, but provide the name in lowercase. We register, it's still uppercase, as you can see. And not only that, you can do it something like this. So all caps, refresh, and it's all caps. And finally, let's talk about multi-language projects where part of the URL is actually the language. So how to do that? So /en/dashboard or /whatever language. You can specify that in the routes with the validation like this. So route get language dashboard, and then in the routes you can specify the conditions. So lang should be only letters and only 2 letters. And then if you want to make a route link for that, in the navigation blade, for example, you do dashboard and then request segment. Request helper with segment means segment 1, this one. Or you can make it a route group as well. So route group, some condition, callback function. Then we get that route get inside. And we don't need that lang at all. We need prefix equals lang, like this. Also a parameter, also a variable. And then we put that where as one of the parameters. So where becomes, so we have prefix, and we have another parameter called where, like this. So where lang equals this. Let's try it out. I hope I didn't break anything. We refresh the page and it still works with all the routes. So you can specify that for one route or for route group. But generally, if you have a website with those routes as parameters of URL, I suggest you use a package for that. Recently, the package I found is called Laravel Localized Routes, and it allows you to configure what routes, what locales you allow, what do you support, and some other conditions like middlewares. And one of the examples where it's used in the website called Laravel Versions by Titan Company and Matt Stauffer. So you can choose your language, for example, Deutsch, German, and you get to DE with all things translated, or you can use like Polish or other language. And then all the pages inside, so for example, you can click something else and you have name of the language and then some parameters of all the routes, but then you get back to English, for example. So this is where you can demo that behavior of the package, and I will link the package and the Laravel versions in the description of this video. That's it for this video. We've talked about static translations of static texts, but there's another huge part of the localization. How do you localize a dynamic thing? So models, model values, database things. And we will talk about that in the next lesson that will be published tomorrow. So stay tuned for the channel updates. Like the videos because it helps the channel grow, and see you guys in other videos.